Greetings everyone, Battery H here. Welcome to another episode of Road to Ruin. Hey, please remember, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe, maybe even ring that bell icon. All of those things help promote our videos. We're not getting a lot of views, guys. We could certainly use the help. Thank you very much for doing all that you do. Share it with a friend, why don't you? Today we're back in London, and believe it or not, we've deadheaded back into London. There was some paperwork we had to finish up in the office here to get things right with various ministries and whatnot. So that's all done, and we've now picked up a job where we're going to be taking a digging machine from here in London, where it's no longer needed, all the way up to Sheffield. And they need it in a mine, so we're going to take it up there for them. That ought to be an interesting drive, but right now we have to get into London. A little bit later on, we're going to be doing some talking about the area around Sheffield, what it used to be famous for, and why what it used to be famous for and why all the others like it in England have shut down. But that's more to come. In the meantime, sit back, enjoy the music as we find our way over to the construction site. And we're here. Well, not quite around the corner, but yeah, right around the corner. Here it is. I'm going to go inside and get our load paperwork and find out where our trailer is, and I will be right back, everybody. Okay, let's back on up and pick this bad boy up. Sort of see that from the window here. Oh my. Apparently their workforce isn't all that great at picking up after themselves. I mean, I know sometimes things get a little, unkempt on a construction site, but guys, come on, that's ridiculous. Clean up after yourselves. It's not that hard. Let's get this thing set in and we're good to go. There. Okay, according to our work clock today, we're still going to have to get some rest. So I'm thinking what we're going to do is plot out catching some Z's up here along the way. Yeah, this looks like that'll do. And then we'll just make it a plan to make that stop there, and then we'll finish off the journey. It'll be a little bit later than what I want to, but, it's a mine. It's a big hole in the ground. You're not missing anything, of course. So let's get this show on the road, ladies and gentlemen. Now that we're rolling through London itself, we can give a chat to where we're going and what's so special about it. The London metropolitan area is quite wealthy, as you can see, and there's a lot of capital that flows in and out of there. It's one of the great banking centers of the world, and business centers, and all of that, trade and everything to be that our modern society has created. But it all really started back with the Industrial Revolution, and that's kind of where we're going to, is what was the heart of the Industrial Revolution. England was the first leader in machinery and steam power in particular. Railroads made their first appearance here in the UK, and steam machinery and factories, as we think of them today, started here. Not in the United States, not in other countries. And it started all of here because of the fossil fuel that gets so much bad press these days, coal. Without coal, none of this would have started. Now, we were using coal, we got the concept that it made for a good long heat. Take a look at the Dickens era and things like that. When you started to see these, we were burning coal for heat and using it for that. But now we came to the point where if we could heat something up and use steam power for motive power and pressure power and automation, we could use it for all sorts of things. So coal was necessary. And one thing that Central and Upper England and parts of all over the UK was large deposits of coal. Some on the surface, a lot more in deep mines. Back then we weren't strip mining large areas for coal simply because we didn't have bulldozers and excavators like we're carrying to carry it along the way. Get through the light. No! That light was yellow. That light was yellow. I'm telling you. You'd think they'd be happy to have somebody from the old country in here hauling their goods, but apparently not. As I was saying, you needed all this coal, and they were able to get it. And unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of coal on the surface. The concept of strip mining was not economically feasible at the time, so you ran what was called deep bore mining or deep mining, which is kind of the coal mining you think of when you think of the American Appalachian Mountains and the coal miners and traditional coal mining, where you go into a shaft and you mine the coal out of the shaft. And it may be large, very large shafts in a lot of cases, but it comes from deep in the earth, and we drag it up and drag it out. And some of the first things that coal was used for was actually steam-powered pumps to keep the water out of the shafts. So they were using their own material that they were bringing out of the ground to help keep themselves dry and safe. It's hard to believe. And there was all kinds of coal in areas around Sheffield in particular, which is where we're headed. There were large coal mines all over Britain. And after a while, after World War II, and the plan was, all these coal, which we were using well into that period, all the coal power plants started to lose, well, not the coal power plants so much, but a lot of the other coal industries started to go away. In the 1950s and 1960s, you started to see these coal mines start to shut down. And they were all run by the government. And we don't think of that, but by then, trains were no longer, by and large, being run on coal. They were run on diesel power or electric power. So you didn't need that. And deep coal was started to become under attack because it's a dangerous, nasty, unhealthy job. Trains switched to diesel and electric, so they didn't need the coal. So there was less need for people to do dangerous work to get that coal out. Unfortunately, as time went on, conditions in the mines didn't always improve. And by the 1970s, the labor conditions in England in the mining industry meant that the miners came to a head with their employers, which was the government. And in 1972, you started to see walkouts from the coal mines. Well, at the time, a lot of the electricity, which of course had exploded across England, especially post-World War II, everything had become electrified that wasn't already. So now a lot of those power plants were all run on coal because it was cheap, it was easy, and it was locally available. You didn't have to pay for it. You didn't have to ship it in. Natural gas power plants hadn't really come as a thing. There was no large differential in water height for hydroelectric. Coal was the answer, or oil, and there wasn't any oil close by, so we'll go with the coal. Again, it was a matter of price. Well, the demand being high for their services, the workers felt themselves in a strong bargaining position and struck. Unfortunately, this led to rolling brownouts and blackouts throughout the city, which didn't do the miners' cause any good. And what it did do was start to have people look for alternative sources of coal. And when that started happening, you started to see these coal mines shutting down. There was no need. Their coal wasn't being purchased. So they started shutting them down. By the 1980s, you had even more issues. In 1984 and 1985, there was a year-long walkout after there was a decision to close 20 of the deep mines. And what that ended up was it caused the end of the closed shop of the British Coal Union. The British Coal Union had been representing all the miners all the time in every one of those deep mines that were run by the British government. And a rival union, the Union of Democratic Miners, formed and started representing folks at different mines and started competing for other works. Well, at the time, deregulation started occurring, starting with Thatcher and eventually ending with John Major. You saw the government divesting itself from the ownership of these coal plants. And productivity exploded. At the same time, though, the need for coal was continuing to diminish. Power plants formed on natural gas and oil, other forms of power, as you saw these things starting to spring up. And we haven't even hit the era of wind power and solar power yet. And nuclear power was starting to make an appearance. Not so much here, but you were seeing it in other places. And therefore, the need for coal diminished. And at the same time, you started to see the importation of cheap coal from Russia and Poland in the 1990s. The breakup of the Soviet Union allowed them to send coal to whoever was willing to buy it, and it became cheaper to buy and ship the coal from Poland and Russia than it was to use the heavily unionized workforce in England to dig it out of the ground. So more and more mines started to shut. By 1994, the privatization of the mines was complete. Most of them moved to a company called UK Coal. And that's where they existed. And unfortunately, these deep mines were needed less and less and less and less and less as electrical power moved to other forms. You weren't using it to heat your home anymore by and large, and what you were getting you could get shipped in cheaper from overseas. And I believe it was 2015, the last deep coal mine shut down. And it brought an end to an era that really started in the Industrial Revolution that shaped the world. And in a way it's kind of sad. And in a way, you're kind of glad that so many people won't have to go working into the down dirty deep. But ask some of these guys that have been doing it for generations in Appalachia. It's not just a way of life, it becomes a source of pride for some of these people. So I understand for those folks who lament the disappearance of the coal fields. And we'll get this bad boy up to Sheffield, and in the meantime, I guess we'll sit back and listen to some more music, and you can hear me stop reciting history and all that good stuff. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you leave your comments down below, maybe there's a subject you'd like me to tackle in the future. I can see if I can get a driving connection to somewhere that it makes sense to do that. That would be kind of fun. So just sit back and enjoy it. We'll get this delivery to Sheffield. We're going to have to park it in a little bit here and get some rest, but we'll make this delivery happen. Sit back and enjoy the music. Okay, battery. We're almost here. You've kept us in suspense long enough. All the coal mines are closed down. What are we taking a digger for crying out loud? I know. I didn't tell you where we're actually going. In all likelihood, what you would say this mine for, and the Euro mines that we're going to, is a lead mine. Yep, there's lead here to be had as well. And fortunately, lead is still very, very much in use. Not necessarily in pencils or in paint anymore, thankfully. So no, the paint chips are once again safe for young Johnny to eat. At least the current ones are. But we do have all kinds of other uses for lead. And lead is a resource also in abundance in this part of England. I know, it's hard to believe, but it is. So we're going to have that to deliver to. And, I know we're driving at night along some of these country roads. We're missing the beautiful scenery as we go by, but the job must get done. And sometimes getting it there in the middle of the night is exactly what you need to do in order to hit a delivery time that will allow them to unload it and be ready to go at first light. So the morning shift has a brand new digger to work with that's operating and doing all the things they need of it, which is why we're almost here. Okay, I'm just gonna pop in, drop off the paperwork, and see where I'm supposed to drop this trailer off, and then we'll head on down into the mine itself. 1 second, please. Okay, here we are. It's just up ahead a little bit, and we're going to drop that off. And apparently there's also going to be a delivery quite possibly waiting for us right here back at the guard shack. So after we drop this off, we may have a delivery for next week already lined up, which would be good for us. Unfortunately, bad because it will be leaving in the middle of the night again. But again, we're trying to get to some neat and new places here in the UK, even as winter happens all around us. Thankfully, it's still not all that snowy around here, which is a good thing indeed. Fairly mild at this point of the year, and we may have more snow to look forward to in the future. Oh, these mines are rough. Rough on our transmission, which is kind of crummy. But that's okay. We'll make do for now. Eventually I want to get a better truck, get some more horsepower in this thing so we'll be able to take things up from these hills. Okay, there's our spot. We'll pull right in and we'll call it a day. I sincerely hope everybody's had a great time today. Again, if you've enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, hitting that bell icon, giving the video a big like, and of course leaving a comment below and telling all of your friends. Until next time, everybody, let's take a look at how we did here. I'm going to say have a great day and, well, drive safe out there, everyone.